Recording in progress.
Just gonna pause recording.
Recording stopped.
We're gonna start it again.
Recording in progress.
Okay. All right, welcome everyone to the July 28th Catholic Regional District Board meeting. I'd like to recognize we're holding this meeting on the traditional territory of the Tla'amin Nation. I apologize for the late start. We had a committee of the whole meeting just prior to this, which ran over by a little bit, but not too badly. So we have an agenda in front of us. To my knowledge, there are no changes to it. So if somebody would like to move adoption of the agenda, Director McCormick and Director Southcott, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Adoption of the minutes of January 13th. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, somebody like to move adoption? Director Southcott and Director Lennox, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed. Motion carries. We have a delegation today from, well, that's a lot of people here. Christi House from BC Timber, or Senior Communications Engagement Specialist, BC Timber Sales, Chinook Business Area, Sydney Wagner, Planning Officer, BC Timber Sales, and Jocelyn Ciarniello, Woodlands Supervisor, BC Timber Sales, Ministry of Forestry, regarding presentation of the 2026-2030 Operating Plan and Scotch Fir Point Development Harvest Treatment. Thank you for being with us today. If you guys want to make your way up to the table here. And I don't know if everybody is speaking, but whoever is at the center seat will be on the camera. So.
Wow. Sure.
We generally give 10 minutes for presentation. If more time is needed, we can ask for more time from the board, but if you wrap it up in that time, that'd be great. And then we will open it up for the directors to ask any questions that they may have. So, floor is yours.
Great, thank you for having us. Again, I'm Christi House. I'm the Senior Communications and Engagement Specialist for the Chinook business area, which consists of Haida, Squamish, Chilliwack, and the Sunshine Coast. This is Sydney Wagner, and she is our registered professional forester planning officer for our Sunshine Coast field team. And this is Jocelyn. Ciarniello, she again is a registered professional forester, and she is the Woodlands Supervisor for our Sunshine Coast field team. So thank you very much. We're excited to be here today. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you. So our purpose today is to create an opportunity for the QRD and your constituents to engage with us and our staff on local forest management and wildfire resiliency planning. Oh, sorry. Still. Yeah. So I use those ones. Yeah, you sure can. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So I just wanted to open before Jocelyn and Sydney give their presentations just a little bit about BCTS, BC Timber Sales as an organization overall. BCTS is a provincial government program within the Ministry of Forests. Its central role is to manage and sell a portion of British Columbia's publicly owned timber through competitive auctions. Some key points on BCTS is that it manages roughly 20% of BC's public timber harvest. We operate in 33 communities across the province, and it was created to set market-based stumpage prices by auctioning timber in order to help ensure fair market value of our province's public timber. In January 2025, the province launched a review of BCTS. In addition to its original mandate to auction publicly owned timber and set price benchmarks, for the market pricing system, BCTS is now being expanded to take a more active forest management role, including supporting wildfire risk reduction, sustainable forest practices, First Nations partnerships, and community-focused forestry. So on that, I'm going to hand things over to Jocelyn now, who's going to speak to the Sunshine Coast Field Team's operations and contribution.
Yeah. So the Sunshine Coast Field Team, most of us sit in Pell River, and our operating areas range from all the way up in Toba Inlets, all the way down to Howe Sound, below Gibson's. We have a vast variety of different operating areas. A lot of it's remote access, but as you may well be aware, we do operate in and behind Pell River. Currently, our annual harvest target volume is 321,000 cubic meters. I understand that's a little bit of an ambiguous sort of number for a lot of people. It's definitely professional forester speak. So we kind of did a little AI exercise to figure out how many homes that would constitute. So 321,000 cubic meters would build approximately 5,000 homes and is about 8,000 logging truckloads. In fiscal 2025, which was calendar year 2024, which arguably was like near the low point of the timber market in BC, our field team generated over $13 million in revenue from the sale of 173,000 cubic meters, which represents about 32% of the revenue that this district generates and only 11% of the volume. Employment opportunities with BC Timber Sales. Like I said, we have 9 direct employees in our office, all registered professional foresters. And then we have a variety of supporting staff for our field team. And our timber sale licenses, when they get auctioned, a lot of the contractors that work on them are locals. So you'll see road building contractors out there, logging contractors, a lot of good paying local jobs for people. We also have a variety of different mechanisms to sort of pay it forward to the community, and BC Timber Sales operates a community grant program, of which Sydney has been the lead on for a while. We've managed to secure funding for various organizations, a couple on the Lower Sunshine Coast, Coast Mountain Bike Trail Association. We've recently received a grant for QRCA in the amount of $5,000. And there's been a few others recently. Yeah, so slide, and I think we're passing it over to Sydney.
Awesome. So yeah, the main thing that we wanted to come talk to QRD about is our wildfire resiliency planning. We know that wildfire risk reduction is top of mind for many organizations and local governments. And yeah, we're really inspired by the plan, the Community Wildfire Resilience Plan, I believe is the full name for what you guys just recently did at your organization. And yeah, it kind of got us thinking, hey, we're also working on wildfire resiliency, and we know others in the Ministry of Forests are doing stuff, and we just figured that this was a really important time as we all shift our focus to that, to be aware of what each other are up to and kind of open those lines of communication. Slide, please. So for us in BC Timber Sales, planning for wildfire resiliency is one of many values that we manage. On the land base, we're looking at healthy watersheds, managing for species at risk, visual qualities, recreation, all those things. And wildfire is one of those priorities. So what that translates to when we're talking about our approach is that we kind of are looking at the areas that we're operating in where there might be a higher risk for wildfire and opportunity to reduce wildfire risk. So it's going to look really different in a BC Timber Sales framework than what it might look like if QRD was to do a treatment, or if the city of Pell River was to do a treatment where it's very focused on not taking any of the trees down, but cleaning up fuels. For us, it's going to still be an economically viable harvest that supports our mandate, but really planning those harvests in a way and in timing and with collaboration of other organizations where we can have a positive impact on wildfire resiliency. So every treatment's going to look a little bit different. And so we're not necessarily looking to present like a specific plan, but we just wanted to get that ball of conversation rolling that we are kicking off a few projects in the local area. Scotchford Point, one that was on the agenda. And yeah, so kind of just a quick what it is, what it's not. And this is some of the target areas where we're actively looking at wildfire resiliency as the top priority value in the harvest planning that we're doing. So
Yeah, so 3 main areas where we're currently doing layouts, starting kind of in the north, and we call it our Bunster operating area. This is essentially near Bliss Landing and along the Malaspina FSR. So high traffic FSR, obviously we know access to the Sunshine Coast Trail. So looking at doing an assessment in there. The middle area is what we call Myrtle and is up kind of Duck Lake Branch 1 area. These blocks in this area will look a lot like an intermediate cut sale where we're basically only removing 20–30% of the volume and incorporating some different recommendations to reduce the fuel loading adjacent to another high traffic FSR. Scotchford Point on the bottom and the southeast is another area that we're looking at right now and just getting going on doing some assessments on wildfire resiliency. And again, another partial harvest sale for us. Targeting removal of 30% of the stems in there and doing some cleanup along. There's some main residential roads adjacent.
Okay. With our last minute, I want to talk a little bit about how we're looking to engage. So if anyone from the public is ever interested, or if any folks have extra questions for us or want direct communication, there's a bunch of us that monitor this BCTS Sunshine Coast inbox. So that's a way to interact with our team at any time. We do have 2 formal processes, both of which are coming up kind of right now. One being our annual operating plan. So that's a 5-year plan that we release, do it every year, update it every year. And that's where we're engaging a little bit more deeply with interest holders, stakeholders. That's the process we go through with First Nations as well. So that is kicking off today. It was supposed to launch, we're delayed by 1 week. So we'll get that referral out next week. And that's a great way for folks to engage with us over a 2-month period. We also have a public forest operations map that's going to be going up in March, and that one we don't, that gets advertised in the newspaper, and anyone from community can access that and connect with us as well. So, thanks.
So here we've reached the end of our presentation, but we wanted to provide you with our own personal emails as well. So I understand there's time for a question and answer period right now, but so if you're want to get a hold of one of us in particular, there's our contact information as well as the general inbox that Sydney shared. So that will thank you again for having us, and we'll open it up.
Well, we appreciate you coming here today, and I will open it up to the director. So let's see, Director Elliott first, and then Director McCormick.
Hi, thank you for being here. I don't think I've seen you here before, but I've not been director for too long. You're talking about BC timber sales in your area. Does that span more than one timber supply area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a mixture of the Sunshine Timber Supply area and the Pacific Timber Supply area within this district. The Pacific is a small oddball portion that BCTS only operates in the Sunshine.
So I just had been copied on the apportionment letter for the Sunshine Coast, and it indicated BC timber sales for 242,319. Is that a maintenance and expansion, or a smaller amount than what you used to do?
We have been increased in the Sunshine Timber Supply area, and then the Pacific is currently going through a TSR, a timber supply review right now. So
Don't know that one yet.
we don't know the results of that one yet.
So that was an increase for you guys for this particular apportionment.
Yes, we were increased by 33,000 cubic meters in this apportionment decision.
Okay, thank you.
Director McCormick.
Thank you. What does your resiliency plan actually look like? Like, are you when you do your cut, are you clearing out the underbrush as well, or putting big containers of water out there in the interland? What does it look like?
Yeah, I think it's gonna look differently. And to be honest, like this is the first kind of blocks that we've done this way. So we are still learning what it's gonna look like for us. We haven't actually logged a block yet under kind of this new framework. And it's going to look differently on a site-by-site basis. So some of the things that we're looking at is creating fuel breaks from active FSRs. So removal of all that debris through piling and burning, chipping, removal from sites, all sorts of different things. The intermediate cut harvest system, where we're leaving a significant number of trees standing, creates more shade and less less drying of the soils on site. Yeah.
I guess one of the key components of that is that for us, it's really important to engage with other specialists in this because we're not wildfire specialists. So we have contracts and stuff that we deal with, not just our provincial colleagues, but then also have professional specialists that conduct assessments on a block by block level. So we have a whole bunch of tools that are available to us, like Jocelyn said, some fuel loading stuff, maybe planting with a bit more spacing. There's a few different ways that we can go about it, but the main thing is that we are having these professionals come in and assess and provide us what our options are for each block and kind of customizing that prescription. And there's engagement opportunity at those phases as well. Like once we identify adjacent landowners or folks who are interested in communicating with us, we just say, hey, we know we're doing something here. We're not sure yet. We're still completing our field reviews. And, you know, work with those landowners to understand how often they want to be communicated. Do they want to see final plans, field tours, all that stuff? Hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Yes.
Great, Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. And sort of building what you're talking about. Yes. So in Area A, so I'm just gonna talk about Area A on your map. So even though it's called the Bunsters for you guys, that's their point. And there are people that is being developed. And so I guess I have a few questions, concepts. I'll start with the public engagement because that's what you're talking about. I just recommend a high volume of public engagement ahead of time. So this is a good start. We have media that watches this, so your contacts are appropriate. So that messaging. I guess what I'm asking is, BC Timber Sales, you know, awards, contracts. Then we have other people that harvest. Then we have other people that burn. We have other people that replant. And I just encourage whatever those contracts are to have the due diligence pieces, because even, you know, this last year, Mosaic, another company, did some harvesting close to people's homes. And I tell you, I've never had more phone calls and more interaction on something that I don't have a lot of say in, but it's advocacy. So I guess that's my point to you, and that you know, public engagement is crucial. And even recently, we've had some what you would consider probably small, like a 40-acre piece that was harvested, went to burn, that created an apocalyptic situation in our community. So I just saying, like, we got to think down the road. And when I look at the maps, that's a fairly large area at Sarah Point. I understand this is a new effort, but that's just a small portion of the FSR. And so my question is, like, what's next? Because I'd look at a harvestable, you know, you try to make it economically to do the work without spending a whole bunch of money and recoup some of that timber. So it's sort of like, what's next? And then I see Theo, there's a big chunk up in Theo, right? And so I'm just asking sort of what's the next, like, you're going to see how this goes and then sort of be.
I think, like, I can take that one.
Thanks.
I think yeah, first of all, thank you very much for those comments, for that feedback. It's
It gets people's attention.
it gets people's attention, and yeah, like, we get right from the minute we see flagging go up, like Jocelyn and I are seeing on the Facebook group, is like, whose ribbon is this? Like, we totally, and that's part of why we wanted to come out. And yeah, like, we haven't engaged that much. We thought this is a great opportunity for us to get that ball rolling. So super appreciate those comments. In terms of what's next, this is something I'm very proud of, actually. So we have Pierre Aubin. I think he's been involved in some other meetings in the past as well, and he's the wildfire risk reduction coordinator for the district, one of our close colleagues. And we've been working really closely with his program. He's kind of taking the landscape level approach and thinking, where should we be prioritizing these big polygons that kind of span the whole peninsula, basically. And what we're all trying to figure out is how we can each do our part to contribute to this broader goal, because the activity that BCTS is going to do isn't going to be protect all of the properties, and we're not going to do sequence of harvesting necessarily that's going to come down perfectly. We're trying to contribute in the way that we can, that our model facilitates us to, and then do that in such a way where we're planning our operations at a similar time to maybe something Pierre has going on. So I don't want to speak on behalf of his projects, but those are the conversations that we are having, and including around Bliss, where it's like, okay, he's got target areas and he's actually thinking, how can he use BCTS as a tool to get the most out of his treatments too? So that's kind of where we thought there's so much value, especially we know that QRD's got Fire Smart Coordinator and all these kind of pieces, that's what we really hope to actually achieve by starting this conversation, is to build out on that, to make sure it's working together and not just like piecemeal and, oh, we're doing this for wildfire and we're not going to worry about all the other fuel around it. Yeah, just trying to make sure everyone can work together to do their part.
Thanks, that's a great answer, and we do have a registered forester on the board that's our ace in the hole, so I don't know if he has any questions for you online there.
Okay,
There he is.
yeah, well, I was just gonna say, we're beyond our 5 minutes. We can extend it by another 5 minutes, but I'll just, as long as everybody's okay with that, but I'd ask people to just be quick and concise with their questions. Thank you very much. Director Southcott.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I think, Christi, you mentioned that there was going to be some kind of consultation. Is that through your website? It would be that, would there be something available on the website for general public or whoever might want to?
Yeah, so when we launch our referral, like our operating plan referral, that'll hopefully be February 4th. I don't want to be fully quoted on that, but we're really aiming super hard to get that out next week. So that will be posted publicly on our website. And for us, we're kind of trying to figure out who we can direct that to, because not everyone's just perusing the BCTS website every day who might come across this. So we're kind of actively looking for ways, like we have a stakeholder distribution list. We have been meeting neighbors kind of out and about as our crews have been out doing field assessments. So we're slowly building that contact. The information will be there. It's just trying to figure out channels on how we can direct people to get that information. There'll be notices posted out like on the community board and stuff as well. We're hoping to get some, by mailbox, like just doing everything we can to try and get the words out, but it will be there. It will be publicly available. For the operating plan is the best way to engage.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Directors Gisborne and then Fall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a professional forester, I'm just a farmer. But this does make me think a lot about wildfire reduction, but also the ecology, swales. So when you have and a swale is essentially like a berm that's like a crescent shaped, so that the water as it flows downhill, it gets kind of stopped and then it kind of helps hold the water. When a large tree falls down, I've noticed it kind of creates a natural swale. However, when we're doing like forest harvesting, we're not seeing a lot of trees just naturally fall down. So I'm wondering, is that something that could potentially be added to this program, that when, say, someone comes in and does harvesting, that they can have a few spots where they're like, okay, we'll grab that root, pull it up, so that way it can kind of create a bit of a barrier and then hold back some of the water. And then that wouldn't just help, with wildfire mitigation, because then it's not as dry, but also then help increase the growth rate of the vegetation as it comes back. And it's just something that shows up in agriculture all the time in drought areas. And I'm just wondering, is that something that could potentially be part of this? Because it doesn't really work in, like, say, the urban setting. Like, we don't have trees being ripped out and roots and stuff in a urban setting of wildfire mitigation. I'm just wondering, is that something that would potentially?
I think that's a super interesting idea. I haven't heard that before. This is why it's cool to talk to people outside of your own little niche, because it's like I think that's a really interesting idea. We do have super interesting limitations when it comes to ground disturbance, so how much soil we can actually disturb. But there are other ways that we can increase moisture retention on site that are current practice, like leaving coarse woody debris to a certain level, not so much that it adds to your wildfire risk, but enough that it can have that organic matter recruitment. Another one Jocelyn alluded to a little bit is in some of these areas, one of the treatments that we're looking at doing is not a clear-cut method. So that's where you're going to have at least half of the mature timber still on site. That's kind of like our best tool for moisture retention. Yeah, swales, personally noted. I'm going to look into that.
Very interesting. No.
Thank you. Thanks for hearing.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Final question goes to Director Paul.
Thank you, Chair. And just for the record, I'm not actually a registered professional
sorry.
forester. But I actually build one of the main timber supply models used by the province for timber supply review. So it kind of looks like I am, but anyways, I'm in there, and I also build wildfire models for big scale. For me, I look at millions of hectares. So, but I'll keep my question focused because we don't have time. So we have so there were two related questions, but how to link but your planning with other plans. So we've recently in the autumn, we received a CATHET community wildfire resiliency plan. So the question is, do you have that? Have you seen it? And if not, maybe get a copy of it from our staff. And the second is there's the Sunshine Coast Forest Landscape Planning process, which, one of the objectives is mitigation of wildfire risk. So I guess the general question is, I think it's great. We're developing these plans, and it's the shift of it's the way the world is going in terms of forestry. But I think the next step is to link these up so that what you're doing connects up with what we're trying to do, and then the mitigations can happen so you can multiply and leverage across scales and across areas and jurisdictions.
Super appreciate that comment as well. It's something that we're actively concerned about, making sure that we're linking it all to the bigger picture. On both those, the CWRP, we have received it. I have taken a prelim look at it. I think our whole team has. It's not something we've like, done a super deep dive on, but yeah, super important that we turn our attention to that. And then with the Sunshine Coast FLP, we are engaging in that right now. When that comes out, all of our operations will then have to be conducted under the FLP. So that will come. And right now we're already looking for opportunities for alignment where we understand the direction that it's going, but that's still very much so in a draft state right now. So yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
One very quick question about
Okay.
chartering.
Go ahead.
Sorry,
More than 10 minutes.
I'll be
past
very
our
fast.
time.
Inter 4 is leaving the area. Much of the apportioned AAC was intended to be in their chart area. And my question is, given that you're trying to do expense, like a cross section of what it costs to operate, would some of that operating area shift into that challenging area to make sure that you're including that as part of your average, and also to make sure we're not concentrating all the AAC in areas that are closer to our community as to that chart area?
Yeah, so I think I could take that. Most of the Inter 4 volume has been disposed of to other licensees. ECTS operates across our district in various different locations. So I think I would say we have a pretty good representative distribution of our operating areas. So we are talking mostly today about our concentrated areas behind Powell River, but we do operate all over the district.
It's a very small proportion of what we do is in that wildland urban interface around here. It's like we've got stuff at the back of Jervis, like we're kind of all over the place. Yeah.
Does that answer your question, or?
Well, kind of. So you're not thinking to expand, it's not on your radar to expand up into the old Inter 4 area?
No, yeah, we have fairly set operating area boundaries right now. And in the FLB, which may change things, but
operating areas tend to change every so often as different land constraints come. And for that exact BCTS, it's part of our model is that it has to be representative across a district.
Yeah, because if that chart area is more expensive to operate in, you're going to want it to be part of the package that you're figuring out, right? So, yeah.
Great. Thanks very much for coming today. I really appreciate it.
Continue chatting.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, moving on, unfinished business, correspondence, none of that chair's report. This could be a quick one. Things that seem to have been moving into the new year very slowly. I had a library meeting, but it was kind of same old. And Stillwater, speaking about forestry, the Stillwater Community Advisor Group has not yet started up again in the new year because they're going through a change in senior leadership over there. But I believe we do have a meeting coming up in February. So I have more to report back there. Other than that, everything that I've done to deal with the regional districts, a lot of you have been a part of it. So there's no point in doing that. We'll go around the table. Actually, we'll start with Director Fall on the screen.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to keep it brief, but I believe our last reporting in the public meeting was on November 26th, so it's going way back. But the December 8th, I attended the local trust committee meeting on Lasqueti, so I always have an opportunity to report and try to share information with the Islands Trust. On December the 15th and then on the 19th, I had meetings with City West. City West approached me and CAO Radke was on one or both of them, I can't remember, of those meetings. And really they have a potential opportunity. So it's kind of getting funding to do last mile coverage on Lasqueti. It's not certain, it's far from certain, but if they had to meet certain strict timelines. One of them was to talk to the regional director, talk to the Islands Trust, hold a public meeting. So there's been some back and forth. We were supposed to have another meeting, but we ended up talking by emails. And on February 17th, they'll be doing a virtual meeting. They had said originally it had to be the end of January, but that became unfeasible. And in person became unrealistic. So February 17th, there will be a public meeting in the evening virtually. I'll send a link if anyone is interested, but to talk about last mile, and we'll see what the public wants. On December 18th, and then again on January 16th, our MP Gord John's assistant, a constituency assistant, met with myself and Tim Peterson, who's one of our local trustees and also on the executive of the Onyx Trust, to talk about the dock, about the False Bay dock wharf. So we talked about the resolution for AVICC, but also providing him with information to carry forward and try to advocate on behalf of us to make sure the dock is maintained. And last I guess on January 20th, the ferry committee, and luckily we have our non-formal ferry committee. We keep meeting. We have a lot of concerns, as I mentioned in the I guess the previous in the committee as a whole. There's concerns about Western Pacific Marine is supposed to have a public meeting once or twice a year according to their contract, and they only ever done one in the whole time I've been on Lasqueti. So they're very remiss in doing that. We've been trying to talk with them. They have challenges. We're not getting a lot of communication because I think their focus is on the fact that they lost this giant contract, and maybe the Lasqueti ferries are on top of their radar. But they are nonetheless committed or required to do that. And we have concerns. We're trying to reach out to BC Ferries and the ministry. So I may be making a request when we go to UBCM to meet with the minister about this, because we have significant concerns about the viability of our ferry if something were to happen to the company. So that's ongoing woes, on top of the fact the washroom wasn't working for a long time, which seems like a minor thing, but it's not that minor when you're on an hour-long trip in the storms. But nonetheless, I won't go into the detail. Our ferry committee carries on and does a lot of work, and I'll leave it there.
Well, boy, the ferries are a constant frequent flyer in your director reports, aren't they? You always seem to have something about it.
Ongoing.
Yeah. Director Southcott.
Thank you, sir. Social procurement initiative, again, just rolling along in a very quiet sort of way, being managed by the Social Canada. No one on that executive committee or others seem to want to let that die. And amazingly, within the past couple of months, there was a new community that joined. So though there's interest, the interest is finding itself behind the more forward concerns, and that's affordability and all the other things we know are community concerns almost everywhere around the province. And speaking of the same sort of situation, Vancouver Island Coastal Communities Climate Leadership Group, there's a whole lot more momentum in that group. It's being moved forward by the Community Energy Association, which is a strong group. I think it's provincially funded and has probably about 40 staff members. But they're still working very much in the trenches, energy efficiencies, promoting a whole lot of the things that do target climate, but are through kind of sideways strategy. So it is happening. It's just not being seen that much, and that's fine. North Island 911. Last board meeting was 17 minutes long. I may tell you how efficient and everything's moving just along fine, and that organization is slightly ahead of the average as far as the update into the new generation 911, which is a colossal transformation. We do have money coming here to update technology for some of our departments. Regional Emergency Executive Committee, pretty much everything that goes through that ends up here not long after. So it's nothing really to report there. Personally, community action team, which has been going on since I think 2017 or so, it's being supported by the CAI, Community Action Initiative. So there's provincial support there as well. It's an engagement across this community trying to figure out ways of mitigating the effects of the overdose crisis and all the social disaster that it's increasing. So community engagement, I really believe, is a prime potential for finding solutions. Yeah, there's a few other things, but I'm going to leave it at that for now.
That sounds so John.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Director McCormick.
Thank you, Chair. So the year kicked off with the annual polar bear swim, and more than 20 people.
How'd you do?
Am I going in the water in January? But there are more and more people who are doing it, so that's great. One of the things I do participate in is the winter market, which takes place every Sunday, and the food and craft vendors. And I go as a customer, not as a vendor. And there's hot lunches served as well. I also attend the every other week the community lunches put on by the senior center. So I attended the garden club on the 21st, which talked about growing sunflowers, and the meeting, of course, with Randine. And on the 26th was the board meeting for Capet Tourism Society, and they're planning their technological upgrades for this year, and as well as applying to the feds for funding for 4 student positions, 3 to be in the field and 1 to be on social media during the summer, and hopefully those applications will be successful. But I guess the thing that I want to close on is what has made the biggest impact on me since it really started at Christmas time. There wasn't a day that went by for about 3 weeks when we did not hear whales blowing in the bay. And there was big ones and little ones, and over here and over there. And then the sea lions are making their great noise that they do. So it's wonderful to know that the ocean is alive with all this wildlife, and seeing so many whales has been just beyond fabulous. So
Fantastic.
yeah, thanks. That's my report.
Appreciate that. Director Gisborne.
Well, thank you, Chair, and I'm sure I'm going to miss something, and I'm only going to go back for 2026. I'm not going to remember everything from December. On the 7th, I had a tour of the proposed foundry building. I don't know if I can say where it is, but it was really interesting. On the 10th, I have to give a big thank you to Heather in Gretel. I think I pronounced that correctly. She put a thing out on Facebook because there was like a single person's kind of homeless encampment up by West Lake. So I went out there on the Saturday along with over 30 other people that showed up, and within 10 minutes, the whole place was clean. I'm just so impressed because it was an absolute downpour. The wind was horrible, and more than 30 people show up, and within 10 minutes, the place was cleaned up. And next thing you know, folks are going like, well, I'm going to hike around the lake and try and find something else to clean up. And I really got to take my hat off. I'm not wearing it to the community that showed up on such a miserable day. And I just got to reiterate that I think there's a huge amount of love for, up around West Lake. And I think I saw Director Brander show up, and he got there and it's like, yeah, we're all cleaned up. And that's a perfect example of many hands makes light work. So huge thank you to Heather for that. And then on the 13th, there was the Paradise Exhibition Park Society AGM, and I think it's the same usual suspects as it was last term around. And they're focusing on, making sure that the trees are safe. And I think they got a new road grading gone in. And I let them know about the grant status that we dealt with, I believe, in 2025. And then on the 19th, I attended the Power River Farmers Agricultural Institute AGM. And, absolutely wonderful group of folks. And I want to report out that there is the BC Farmers Market, which has their annual convention. And why I'm bringing this up, there are 3 people in the lead for most outstanding community impact for farmers markets in BC. And one of them is our very own Julie Joby. So they haven't announced who's the winner yet, but I would not be surprised if it's our very own Julie Joby. So absolutely wonderful to hear all the things going on over at the exhibition park, both with PEPS and the Farmers Agricultural Institute, and, the folks showing up and cleaning up. So it's been a pretty wonderful month, even though the weather's been pretty miserable, but it doesn't really seem to bother my residents. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I did show up. I have to admit that I was really glad that it was already
That was an ugly day.
It was an ugly day, and the concept of going to pick a bunch of garbage didn't really excite me, but so yeah, hats off to everybody who showed up and took care of that.
Oh, and just to reiterate, it was like a homeless kind of setup that was getting cleaned up. So that was a big concern, was this a result of increased tipping fees? Was it looking like household garbage? But it became very clear very quickly that it was someone who was, having a housing crisis. So
Thanks, Director Lennox.
Thanks, Chair. And it was an example of this community, how quickly you can come together with if you have lots of hands, it doesn't take much. So I thought that was super cool. So kudos to everybody. I didn't come down from London. You know, there's lots, we've been meeting a lot together, so I won't go over the stuff we all know, but I thought our meeting, having our MLA come before us is great, right? So for me, that was a big thing in the last couple of weeks. Being able to truly say that we're on a first name basis with our MLA and with my MP as well, I think is good because like that's our advocacy. So I thought that was great. Just checking my notes here. We've talked a lot about this. City West, since Director Fall mentioned it, has been hard at work out in Lund laying actual fiber optic line in our community. So as you know, pretty cool to see the trucks and the crews laying actual lines. So that's just continuation of that connected coast work. You know, we're expecting in Lund, just talking to the receiver, even though it's not for us yet, but the Lund water system will be trying to get together the community out there and continue work towards that. I wanted to mention I continue to work with ASIC, that's the Association of Savory Island Committee, and their advocacy around with MOTI or MOTT and others, and the work that they're doing. So I continue to help them and advocate up through there. Talked about the new fire engine out in London. I got a chance to go see it. It's pretty cool when you get those new assets for the community. And finally, we're all underway again with the Savory official community plan, where the advisory committee held its 5th meeting. I was like, holy crow, it's the 5th one. Mm-hmm. But the cool part about that is we're actually able to look at the first draft of the OCP. So I think it's actually been super cool for both the advisory committee and people who are paying attention, you know, through them, that we're looking at in chunks, you know, each section of the official community plan, and we're actually able to talk turkey, because up until now it's been a bit of a, you know, ideas and visions, and it's hard for people to nail down. So I thank our staff for helping with that. I thought that meeting went well, and we're looking forward to another one soon. Kind of one a month here, so pay attention. This is everybody's chance to be involved. Thanks.
Great. Great to have a draft in front of you.
It is. Yes.
All right, Director Elliott.
Thank you. So we had, I just wanted to mention that according to the email I read, the next CAG would be February 11th. The Chamber of Commerce, which I attended their meeting in December, their gala event where they do awards for local businesses is at Dwight Hall on Saturday, February 28th. And so those tickets are being sold right now by the Chamber of Commerce, and you can contact them through their office, through their phone number, through their website, or emailing their manager. The emergency extreme weather shelter is underway and been sort of a lease signed with the city for the small library area under Dwight Hall, and that only opens in the event of extreme weather, which is cold below 0 degrees, or wind more than 70 kilometers an hour, or excessive rain or snow. And it isn't open for the high temperature parts of the year, so that is part of a different hot weather response plan, and it isn't part of this. The community has been extremely worried about that, so we've had an awful lot of correspondence, some for, some against. The extreme cold weather shelter, or emergency extreme weather shelter, is only intended to bridge until the space on Barnett Street opens. And at that point in time, the new temporary shelter is expected to be large enough to cover our needs, and not needing the one that only opens during extreme weather. So there won't be, the way I understand it, there won't be anybody looking for, and I've confirmed it by talking to a few people, looking for a long-term space for this. So that's good news. And for those that are really, really worried, I think we will be having more information to come. It's not going to be ready right away. The service provider, which is Lyft, has some organizing to do around getting staff and supplies and things like that before they can actually run that. So they're looking at a couple of weeks, according to my sources. And so then it's possible that we won't even hit those weather targets within the amount of time that we have left before that other place opens. So I just wanted to update everybody about that. There's been a lot going on in the community. June 26th, I attended the community action team, and they've, reported out on doing some changes and updates to the website, so people could check that out if they like. Topics that we were discussing at length included our youth cat and how to support it, and support for the grant application from one of our local NPs for a study they would like to do. It was reported that Dr. Bardwell from university does come from. He did a study over the last 4 or 5 years, and he reported out on his findings in a community facing feedback session last fall at the United Church. And so the final report that includes all of his findings for that study should be coming out, is imminently coming out, like in the next week or two. And the most good news one that I wanted to talk about was I attended the ballet last night, and oh my goodness, my heart was so into it. It was so fabulous. And the reason they debuted this new ballet here in Powell River is because the choreographer, who is a graduate of the Royal Winnipeg Ballet Academy, was the choreographer for a local common story, which has, the music that went with it has some narration from our own Elsie Paul that goes in with the dancing. And it was epic. I was so happy to be there and experience. There was not an unhappy face in the entire crowd, which was sellout crowd. Everybody was happy. The ballet was amazing. So if you get a chance to go, I don't know if they're going to be back here again, but they're doing a bit of a tour.
On Thursday.
Yeah, if you have a chance to go, I think it's well worth it. It was so wonderful. So that I'm leaving with that note.
Great, thank you. My wife was there. She said it was a fantastic experience as well.
Yeah.
Great. Moving on to consent agenda then. Anything that you would like to pull from it, or if not,
See?
entertain
Move.
motion to move it. Okay, moved by Director Gisborne, seconded by Director Lennox. There's no discussion, so all in favor? Motion carries. Moving on down. All the way to bylaw. Would like to read that bylaw?
I move the board give first and second reading of Cadet Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 606/2026.
Second by Director Lennox. Any discussion? None, all in favor? Motion carries unanimous.
I move that the board give third reading of Cadet Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 606/2026.
Second Director Lennox. Any discussion? No hands, all in favor? Unanimous. And
I move the board adopt Cadet Regional District Security Issuing Bylaw number 606/2026.
second Director Lennox. Any discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just quickly, and maybe our financial officer can correct me just for folks watching, right? We're taking care of our debt here, and I guess just in the report, there's some blank spaces, and I'm gonna ask, we're gonna fill in those spaces with the appropriate dates. Are there any reasons for us to consider dates or not? And then finally, on the last page, there's a debt payment schedule. I guess that'll be filled in once we get our final numbers. Just a couple of quick questions for people watching.
Ms. Greenan?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, we will fill in the dates up until the dates for when the bylaw was read the first and second and third time and adopted. Okay. What we won't fill in is there's the last 2 pages. Those don't actually get filled in. They are just an example of what the Municipal Finance Authority will send us when they actually send us the finalized agreements and documentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Gisborne.
I just want to thank the board. I see this as kind of crossing the finish line of a long marathon that started, what was it, September of 2024, I think, when we had the issue around community works funds. And I just also want to thank the board that, we ended up deciding to do a 10-year borrowing rather than 15 or 20 or longer. And I think that, it does put a greater tax burden per year for the next 10 years, but it also means that we don't have to pay as much into the debt. And, you know, it's unfortunate that the project went higher than expected, but we're dealing with the cost overruns, I think, in a responsible manner of having a shorter term borrowing rather than a long-term borrowing. So thank you, Chair, and thank you, Board.
Seeing no other comments, so call the question. All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. We have new business 15.1. Director Gisborne.
I'd like to move the motion that's attached.
Seconded.
Second by Director Lennox. Any comments?
Yeah, so I've attached a director's memo that covers more things about the 3 service reviews that were triggered at the very end of 2024, beginning of 2025. Covers a number of items. There is also, of course, redacted in there because there was some information I thought was publicly available. Turned out it's not. So that's why it's redacted. And that's why if you read it, it might seem a little weird because there's a section there that's just been deleted, and that's why it says redacted rather than having anything there. When we were doing the service reviews, and I'm looking at the package of the formal statutory service review, what is it? Well, to clarify, this review body or service review group is not intended to be a committee of the board. As such, my understanding is that they would not be covered by the same open meeting rules as a committee of the board. That said, in practice, most, if not all, service review groups agree to hold their meetings in public to support transparency and openness. I believe our service review groups were open to the public. We did have some members of the public that showed up, though they were elected officials from other areas. And we had those meetings filmed, and I think the memo said something like $90 a meeting. And in the spirit of transparency, and I've had some folks asking some questions about the service reviews, if we can then upload those videos, I think it'll help everyone with understanding the transparency of what's been happening to this point. And then my hope is that the 3 service review groups can reconvene in a relatively short order in the next month or 2 and get moving on it so we can come to some sort of resolution on these 3 separate items.
Okay, Director Lennox.
Yeah, thanks. Speaking to the motion and just Director Gisborne's comments is, what is the cost of the issuing videos? Do we have any idea? Or not?
Thank you through the chair. I don't think that it's a large sum.
Okay.
So I would estimate that it's less than $500 to upload them. I'm not sure how much staff time it will take, but we've had to upload other ones and it is not too time consuming. So what the number I provided is probably significantly higher than.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Elliott.
So it talks about money in this motion. Is it a weighted motion or is like it would be the service, the directors for that service, or I don't know. I just want to ask.
My understanding is that we had money placed in the budget, and so this would be ensuring that it's properly. I think it's already we've already taxed for it, so I don't believe this would be weighted. Okay. But it is an all directors vote because we're dealing with multiple services.
Okay, so I vote right.
Yeah, it's
Director Paul.
Just to clarify that, I totally agree with the corporate officer. If my recollection holds, we originally had a proposal to have fairly large amounts for each service to handle the service reviews. We reduced that because the facilitation is being done by yours truly in-house for the moment, if that continues. So, but that we didn't reduce it to 0. We left it. And so the service review meetings have cost, I should say nothing. The staff did generously set things up and did set up the camera to record them. So I think, you know, the recording's there. And I think the modest amount fits within the budget. If I would guess, it was still $1,000 or $2,000 for each service, I think was left in the budget.
Thanks very much. Seeing no other hands, we'll call the question. All in favor? Unanimous. Approved. Question period. Lindsay, are you out there or?
Wherever you need.
Yes, Chair, I am. Was just unmuting. Took me a moment. Thanks for being patient.
No problem.
My question is with regard to the January 13th Finance Committee agenda, which is appended to the bottom of today's regional board agenda. Item 14.2 was initially an FYI on the regional recreation. process, and I checked the minutes of the meeting appended to today's agenda, and the item has been removed. There's no 14, or there's a new 14.2, and so I'm wondering why this has occurred.
Thank you for the chair. I'll have to just do some research and touch base with Mr. Galinsky after the meeting, likely tomorrow, if that will work for him.
That would be excellent, corporate officer. Thank you very much for that. I look forward to your assistance. That was my question, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Galinsky. We have a proposed closed session. We don't need to read it out, but if somebody would like to move that.
So moved.
Gisborne, seconded, Director Lennox. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous.
One last time.
Well, what's that? I go,
The only one I've ever had anybody ask me.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're live again, folks. We're back in the open session and we'd like to rise and report. The board adopted the December 11th, 2025 updated respectful workplace policy and the December 11th, 2025 updated progressive coaching and discipline policy, and endorsed the continued development and implementation of the full respectful workplace framework to support WorkSafe BC Certificate of Recognition, known as CORE, C-O-R, audit requirements, WorkSafe BC regulatory compliance and organizational psychological safety. And the board referred the fourth quarter 2025 strategic plan progress report to the February open committee of the whole meeting. With that, we're at the end of our agenda, so we're adjourned.
Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew.
Night, everyone.